What about the time form here for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf?
Well, Midday is good enough to win. The time form ratings tell you that. She's got huge amount of positives. She's tough, she's very consistent, she knows how to dig in. There's just one question, and I may look a bit foolish by this time tomorrow if Henry Cecil's filly wins. Henry Cecil, national treasure in British racing, 30-odd classics in Europe, 10 trainers' titles, but he's 25 years without a Breeders' Cup win, and I will bang the drum again. I'm slightly concerned, I'm more than slightly concerned, that Midday's turn of foot, or lack of a turn of foot, could be her Achilles heel tomorrow. She's got some real hard-running fillies going to come late. Forever Together, Magical Fantasy, and it's my concern that lack of a turn of foot in the final furlong could be a problem for Midday.
Tony, you have your pulse on how these horses are being viewed at Betfair in Europe overall. What is the view from the punters on Midday?
Well, Midday is a very, very strong favourite in the UK and on Betfair. That's trading around about the 11-4 mark. Forever Together, the morning line favourite over here, about 5-2. That's very weak. That's about 130 chance. It's edging out to 7-2. Magical Fantasy, the other big player on the race, that's a 4-1 chance. But I think Graham's keen on Midday here. But Henry Cecil could even have a winner before that. I mean, Father Time, I think that's a great bet at 7-2 to beat Mastery, get his revenge on Mastery in the first. So Mastery's a 2-1 favourite there. But I think Father Time's turn of foot on this course could prove crucial.
And Simon, you spent time, you came up in Henry Cecil's yard. I mean, you cannot overstate how much maybe just the racing public is rooting for him.
He certainly is. He's undergone a lot of personal problems over the years with various divorces and some health problems in the most recent years. And of course, his victory with Twice Over in the Champion Stakes at Newmarket was very poignant. Tears were shed by many of the fans and he himself. So, I mean, yes, he doesn't have a win in the Breeders' Cup, but he's become very close. If you remember, Indian Skimmer had a horrible ride under jockey Michael Roberts, and he had Eltish second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So he's got Midday in here. The thing going against her is 3-year-old fillies have a dreadful record in this race. They're 2 for 40 lifetime. That said, the two that have won, a Ouija Board and Banks Hill, both came from Europe. So I think there's some upside here with Midday, but I do see some concern about the turn of foot that Graham was talking about.
Okay, we're going to move on to other contenders in this race like Forever Together right after this race at Los Alamitos. Back to our discussion of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf on Ladies Championship Day at the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Defending champion Forever Together is in here. Is she as good as she was last year, bottom line?
Well, the bottom line of Forever Together is that her last race at Keeneland was not her distance. It was a mile on the turf. She's going to get a lot more here, a full quarter of a mile more in this particular race. So you can't falter because she ran third in that race coming from well off the pace. She'll be better placed in this race coming up, and I think she is the same horse as last year.
Yeah, but she won this race last year coming into the Breeders' Cup, even though it was a mile, and she won convincingly. I think more of the turf condition probably had something to do with this, do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a soft turf there, and that's probably not the footing she would prefer to have as she did in California last year.
I'm not buying it. I don't think she is. You know, when we were up in Canada for the Canadian, that was the same exact turf she's going to get tomorrow.
Yeah, that was a very firm turf course.
30 cents on the dollar, got beat by Princess Haya, who was basically in a non-win other than one winner on an allowance. So to me, I don't think she is the same horse, and I think she's pace compromised in this race. I don't think she gets it done.
I don't think it was the greatest ride up in Canada, by the way. I think that needs to be said, and I think that's hurt her in a couple
and
of
Keeneland
points
as well,
yeah. Okay, all right. We're
going to pile on.
All right, Magical Fantasy is on a win streak, and really the best in California. Gets a lot of respect here as the second choice in the morning line.
Finally, I mean, she's been very, very consistent this year. She's won her last 4 starts. She's undefeated at Santa Anita, being 2 for 2. It took her a while to get that respect, and as you can see here in the victory of the Yellow Ribbon, one of her best buys in 97, excuse me, a Thorograph sheet number of 2.5. Her victory in the Yellow Ribbon, I thought, was a perfect prep coming into this because it is over the course, it's over the distance as well of 1.25 miles, and Alex Solis fits this filly perfectly. Tom, I don't know whether you've seen her much out here on the West Coast, but she's a filly that is not going to win her races by 5 or 6 lengths. She's going to do what it takes to get the job done.
And Simon, that's why she hasn't gotten a lot of respect, because she doesn't win by a lot. But if you're going to get sold on her, it would have to be from earlier this week when she worked for us on the show. We watched her work over the grass course. She was brilliant, looked great, had a great stride. Of the Americans, she is the best.
And Tony and Graham, what's your view of the Americans and their hopes in the Filly and Mare Turf?
Well, first of all, guys, I can hardly believe that Magical Fantasy is the same filly I saw get beaten in a 3 grand race at Wolverhampton a couple of years ago. So she's been relentlessly progressive. I like that turn of foot. I like Forever Together's turn of foot. And this could be a pretty steadily run race, and I think that would compromise Midday more than anything, because she is a strong galloper. I think the accelerators like Forever Together and Magical Fantasy will have the final say. I think it's going to be a real tight finish. You've got to have Midday in your exactors, trifectas, etc. But I think she'll be second or third. I think it's going to be last year's winner. Champion comes back, Forever Together for me.
Tony, do you have an opinion on the race?
I think it's very, very competitive. When you look at the fact 7 horses, there's only £6 on Timeform Racing between those. I wouldn't be in a rush to take a short price about any of the leading contenders, to be perfectly honest. Very, very competitive race for me, but I'll sit this one out.
Okay, yeah, there are 14 races to consider, so yeah, maybe that's a good move sometime. Tom?
I'm going with Midday. I'm going against my European friends there, and I'll tell you why. Henry Cecil, when she ran the Opera, her last race, it was off a 60-day layoff, and she got tired in that race, and he said as much. He said, I did not train her correctly, and Midday is my pick. Let's not forget, when you saw her fade in that race, she's going to have the addition of Lasix, and I can't stress that enough for the Europeans. We see that over and over again when they come to the United States. If you're looking for a finishing punch from Midday, something she hasn't given you overseas, Graham, I think the Lasix could make a difference for her.
I'm going to give you my pick, and I'm going to give you my strategy here for the filly and mare turf. My pick is the 6 Midday. I think Henry Cecil gets it done. He gets his first Breeders' Cup Classic winner here. And a filly that hasn't been mentioned in this discussion tonight that you need to pay attention to is Visit. So I'm going to assume that Forever Together is not the same filly as last year, and I'm going to play this race like this. I'm going to use Midday over Visit and the 3 Rutherian, somebody we haven't discussed there. She's been very close to Forever Together. I think the extra 1/8 of a mile is going to help her. I really do, and I think she could be a factor here. So you got a Midday over some prices, a 10-cent superfecta box using 1, 2, 3, 6, and then just use those 4 horses in all your pick 3s, your pick 4s, and pick 6s. But Visit, we've talked about this race having no pace. She will be around at the finish because she's going to be leading these runners from the gate, and she can hang around for a piece of it.
Are these plays available at TVG.com? You're putting these tickets together for everybody?
I think so. They're going to be available there.
All right, it's all at TVG.com. Paulie, what are you going to go to TVG.com and bet in the filly and mare turf?
Well, we're all dead because we all picked Midday. I love Midday as well. And, you know, the reason why I like Midday, there's really not a lot of pace signed up for this race. Either Visit's going to go to the lead or Dynaforce, and I don't think they're going to set that big of fractions. So I think Midday is going to be able to track in 3rd and 4th where she likes to be in Europe, and I think it's going to be pace compromise for Forever Together. I don't think they're going to go that fast early, and I think the Midday is going to hit the lead at the top of the stretch, and they're going to have to run her down late, and she's game.
It's amazing. You guys take Graham's opinion, kind of Tony's opinion as well, and just say, all right, we're moving back to that horse anyway. Sometimes maybe you're too close to a situation, and so, I don't know, maybe being further apart leads to a winner?
Exactly. And I think sometimes we're too close to the American situation. We're always just looking for a fresh face this year, I think.
Or Graham, maybe we're not that smart. Would you say that?
Well, I don't know. You've got good judges there. But I've seen this filly all year, and all year long she's looked a stronger and stronger stayer. And I've been to Santa Anita several times now. I love speed, I love turn of foot, I love acceleration. I'm just not sure she's got it, guys. I could be wrong.
Well, for their sake, I hope you are, but for your sake, I'm cheering for you in a lot of ways. You were the star of our work show this week. Everything you described there about acceleration applies to our next race. We move on to the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and Ventura showed brilliant acceleration last year when winning this race in a track record time. Still astonishing to me, 1:19.4.
And the 3/4 split was 1:07.4, and she comes into this race in similar fashion. She used the Woodbine Mile as a prep for this race last year, finishing 2nd. She uses it as a prep this year. She's Timeform rated 138, 8-5 on the morning line, informed decision 137. Those top 3 horses are the only 3 that are going to figure in the outcome of this race. Ventura, informed decision, and Sarah Louise.
Let's start with Ventura, the defending champ, because I think with what we saw up in Canada, where she was able to beat the boys in an astonishing time there, also speaks to how fast that turf course was with a mile and 1:32, but she seems to be in brilliant form, much like last year.
Much like last year, you know, we're asking whether these horses are the same as last year. She's a defending champion. In my opinion, she most definitely is. Now look, you're looking at her on the turf here, and quite frankly, this race is going to be on the poly. It's going to be a one-turn sprint, Paul. You know, but do you see that same kick that you saw last year in the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, it was devastating. We were there that day in the Woodbine Mile, and I think that's the key, one turn, and this is a one-turn mile. She She excels at this distance. I think she's the one horse in this Breeders' Cup on Friday and Saturday that's going to cross the wire first. The favorite.
The 7 furlong shouldn't be a problem. She's had 5 tries at it. She's won 3 times and finished second. The problem with Ventura is sometimes getting her to the front and not pulling up. Garrett Gomez has been aboard her. She's a tricky filly to ride. As she's got older, I think she's become a little more professional, but sometimes she hits the front and she loses races like she did in the Cash Call Mile last year.
Well,